All right, go ahead whenever.
Cool. Hello, we are Group 7. What we were asked to do by our customer was to create something almost sort of an extension to GitHub or something that works alongside with GitHub to make it really easy to search, explore, find really cool repositories that you might want to save, and just really have a nice personalized space there. So let me introduce you to Popping Projects. It's an easy way to rank and organize repositories in GitHub. Like I was mentioning, um, they're going to be ranked by stars. We'll get to that in a little bit here. Rather than spending long periods of time searching on actually either Google or GitHub, you can just search and find things and save things really easily with our app. Um, GitHub, as we all know, can be a little bit of a mess. So let Popping Projects do the work for you. It's easier than ever to explore and access repositories and discover some really cool ideas. If you see a cool project, don't worry about trying to remember the name or anything. You can safely bookmark them on our app, and you can go back and find those cool ideas at any point. Pass it on to Eli here. He'll talk about the brochure.
All right, yeah, I'm going to go over our brochure a little bit. This is the group brochure we created for the separate assignment. I just wanted to kind of introduce the project. This is kind of meant to advertise it a little bit. Yeah, so this is the main page of the brochure. We have a little logo there. We got the title. We got a bit of a quote talking about new ways to access repositories. And then on the left, a description that reads Popping Projects is a new way to explore software built through GitHub. Our goal is to offer a convenient new way to organize new and existing repositories as well as showcase what's currently popular. We also offer features that aren't explicitly available on GitHub, including an explore page that allows anyone to explore the new repositories and filter by what they're looking for. When I was looking at GitHub itself a little bit for this project, it had some of these features. It had like a trending page, but it wasn't as easy to get to and not specifically stated that it had those features. And it didn't really have anything like filtering specifically for repositories by certain languages and things like that. So our aim was kind of to add those features. So this was the back page of the brochure, the back 3 pages, I guess. So on the left here, we're talking about our design a little bit. The design mainly starts with the home page. So here you can see this little snippet down here. We'll go over it in more depth in a little while. But here on the homepage, there's the top repositories are listed, which gives you some easy access to the most popular software on GitHub. This one updates, as we'll talk about when we get into the API and database. The next part of it, which I don't have on this brochure per se, is the explore page. That one can be used to discover new repositories as well as narrow down new information through the use of filters and searching. Um, and then that's kind of our second main page. And we also have, in addition to that, an account interface allowing users to log in and save information, which adds another layer of depth to the experience. And then we have some challenges and lessons that we had, and we'll talk about these more as well. But for challenges, some of the main stuff we had was obviously creating all the functionality we wanted. We also had some new tools in there that we'd never used before, like Django and Replit. Learning those, teaching those to ourselves was quite interesting. We also had some unexpected difficulties that everybody runs into, mainly time restrictions and some technical challenges as well. We also one of the things that kind of goes through many iterations is creating good UI. So you go through many different like ways of making UI that you think looks good, and then you change it and whatever. So that was kind of a challenge as well. Then we had some lessons that we learned. Like I said, learning new tools with limited time can be challenging, but it was a good lesson that we all had to deal with. There's also something else I was saying here was that there's many moving pieces when creating a web application. We had all the back end and all the front end and all the things linking those together with the tests and stuff. So making those all work together can be time consuming for sure. Um, Things won't always go as planned. Sometimes compromises will need to be made and features will need to be prioritized. So that's our brochure. I'm going to move on to our user stories for now. I'll do the first one here. That would be our home and trending page, the first major story. Just to read it, it says, as a business, I want a home trending page so I can easily see GitHub's most popular repositories. So let me exit out of here and I'll hop over and show that. So hop over to our project here. So this is that homepage that you saw in the brochure a little bit. As you can see, we have all the things I had said before. We have a search functionality. This we'll actually demo later. And then, this is kind of the layout of it. We have login and sign up. This nav bar is present across all the pages. We have all the repository information here, and these are ordered based on stars. And you can also access GitHub right here. That takes you over to the repository, which we will discuss more in a bit. Yeah, that's our homepage. We'll start there. Want to move on to the next user story? Whoever wanted to do explore, go ahead.
Marmon. Next up is the Explore page. It is a more widespread version compared to our homepage. It shows a lot more repos, especially since the homepage only shows by the total number of stars, and higher stars more likely is going to be shown there. But the Explore page shows all repos that we're able to grab from the GitHub API, which will be talked about a bit further on. The Explore page has a couple other user stories connected to it, such as the search bar will send you over there. Then there's also the filter sort to sort them by the number of stars. So say, hey, I want the ones with higher number of stars, they will show up higher up in the list. Or you can sort them by number of forks, last commit, so on and so forth. So then you can find the ones according to you want, sorting a bit easier.
Yep, so you have all our language filters here on the left, some pages, all the things he was discussing. What do you want to demo on here? Should we do a couple
search
filters?
Bar and the sort, because Jahar is
Yeah,
taking
we
care of
can
the
do the
filters.
search bar and the sort, and even you can. This page is basically just to play around with like all of the repositories. You can sort it out, you can filter it out however you want, you can navigate it however you want. So you can try even with the filters, with the language filters, or even after you filtered it with certain languages, you can have multiple ones, yeah. And you can
C,
sort
Java.
these filtered repos as well. Try sorting it based on anything.
Yeah, so we got these over here. Do open issues, sort those.
There you go.
Yeah.
And search will help you find one by name. Say you want a repo around Among Us. Search in there and you'll find something.
You want me to try that? Should we give it a go?
Yep. And that's essentially what the Explore page is. It's designed to...
Who knows if there's an Among Us repo? No idea.
Yeah, no, I
just an example.
As an example.
Yep.
Thing that came to mind.
I gotcha. So we
and
will.
That's essentially for the Explore page.
You can scroll down and you can clear out all the filters as well. So yeah, this is just a page to like play around with all of the different ways that the repo is sorted.
All right. Do you want to talk about, Bryn, do you want to talk about API and database a bit?
Yeah, so obviously, like, the core functionality of our app is the ability to view information about different GitHub repositories. And so to accomplish that, obviously, we need some way to get that information from GitHub displayed in the app. And I mean, one approach would be to just put it all in manually, but that would be a huge pain. That would take forever. So what we did is we used the GitHub GraphQL API to get all this information. And the reason we used the GraphQL API over the REST API is it was a lot more flexible and efficient for getting all the specific information we needed. So originally our plan was to just make a request to the GitHub API every time the user navigated to a page or used a part of our application. But there were some pretty significant problems with that approach. First of all, it would be very slow. And then if there were multiple users using our app, we could very easily get rate limited and the whole thing would just break. So that kind of leads into the next user story, which is the database. And the database was basically our solution to the API problem. So what we did is, instead of making a new API request every time the user requests data. We just make a single API request every so often, and we store the results in the database. And then that way we can just serve the database data to the customer instead of API request data. So that solution is much faster, and it handles concurrency very well. So it pretty much solved all of the API issues. And it would also be a pain to manually store the API request results in the database over and over each time you had to update them. So we wanted to automate that. And our solution was to create a script that queries the API every hour, and it automatically stores the results in the database and parses all the data. And that script is run every hour, like I said, as a background task while the app is running, so it doesn't affect performance whatsoever. And basically, this solution has allowed our app to automatically update the database with real GitHub data every hour without any effort on our part. So it's super convenient and accomplishes most of the core backend functionality.
Awesome. Is there anything you want me to demo from that, or just check out the code, or anything you think would be useful?
I think I showed the code in the last presentation.
I think you did, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to demo. So
Not much has changed with that. I don't think it was working pretty well.
Yeah, I don't think so.
All right, if we move on to the next user stories, those were our major ones. We'll move on to some of the other ones there. If we want to talk about sort and search first.
We covered those when we were talking about the Explore page.
We did a little bit. Do we want to go into any more depth? Whoever was going to talk about them, or was that going to be you?
No, that what I talked about sort and search is essentially all that was needed for that.
Okay, who wanted to go next?
Go into depth, just demo them individually.
Yeah, I can head over there and we'll take a look.
Let's go back over and demo them.
So if we go back to our home page here,
Explore.
we'll go.
Oh yeah, the search should send you to the Explore page.
Yeah, we'll try. I'm gonna try. We're just gonna do. I'm gonna do the top one just to make sure it comes up with the result. So we'll do that, and I'll go search, and it takes us over to the Explore page here and finds us that specific repository, and we have all the same information we did before. We kind of demoed the sort and filters already, so I think those were pretty good. Let's pop back over here. That's
Also,
sort.
if you click the icon on the Explore page, it'll lead you back to the home page as well.
Yes.
It's the cool thing.
Yep. Works pretty good. All right.
Yeah, just to mention one other thing. The way we implemented all of the sort and search and filters and stuff is with query strings. So it's basically all just built into the URL.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about for those?
Nothing I can think of.
All right. Should we move on to account?
Okay. The next user story is the accounts. For the user to save the repositories, obviously it needs an account page. The initial plan was to use a GitHub account for the sign up, but if for some privacy reason the user doesn't want to sign up using Git, or for some other users who doesn't even have GitHub account, we had also added an option so that the user can create a personal account through our app. The user can add his name, image, bio, and mail, and update them anytime. They can save and organize their favorite repositories for easy access. And the next user story is access. The user want to access the repositories he saved in his account. The interface ensures quick navigation and utilization of the discovered repositories. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, those are the two stories. We'll go over and demo a little bit of that functionality. So if we want to talk about account first, I'm going to go here to sign up. And then we can, do the usual, make ourselves a username and password. So we'll go call it a test user. And then here's our password. Sorry, that's my password manager stuff. Just ignore that. And we'll do password. What were our requirements? We had some security requirements in here. 8 characters, commonly used, so it won't let us do password with it. What if we do a password 1? about that. And then an email, we can just do any email here. So we'll do an email at web.com. Sign up. Awesome. So we created a user there. So we'll go a test user, and then we will do, I did a login here. Awesome. So then once you make an account, it has you do bio. It has you do your bio, image, and website if you want to do that. So just do a bio here, and then I'm gonna just put in my GitHub for this, and we'll do create account. And cool, we see an account tab pop up here, and we have our username on this side. So if we go to our account here, we can see all of our info under the account management tab, and we can also log out as well if we wanted to. And then access, for the access story, one of the main things I think that was focusing on was being able to access the repository itself. So having this view on GitHub button here allows you to get straight to the code you want to look at. All right, those are our other user stories. If we want to move on to reflection, Eric, if you want to talk a little bit about these to start.
I'll talk about Django here, and actually I think it worked really well for our project in this case, especially with having a shorter period of time to work. The Django framework gives you the ability to just kind of, gives you a lot of out of the box. So you can really just kind of hop right in, and it's also open source, which is really nice. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. What about Agile? Did we? I can discuss Agile a little bit. Does anyone else want to do it? Who would like to talk a little more? Or I can do it as well if that's cool. We had Agile principles in work, just like all the other groups. So that was, iteration sprint practices, as well as communicating with the customers and stuff, which were all practices that we definitely found helpful for organizing development. And then along with those, we had some GitHub, ZenHub, and Discord were our main tools that helped make group work possible. So all those were quite useful as well. Let's see, who did most of the testing stuff? Do we want to talk about that a little bit for BDD and TDD?
I can talk about some of the testing.
Sure.
Our approach to testing was basically look at the coverage originally and see what areas still needed to be tested, and then kind of fill those in. So we tested the views, and we tested the models, and we also tested the forms and everything like that. And eventually we got our coverage to about 99%, I think. I'm not exactly sure what it is right now.
I think it was in the 90s, yeah. You're correct.
Yeah, but it's still pretty high, yeah.
Yep.
It was definitely a pain with Replit trying to use all the testing tools, but the Django test framework that was built into Django worked pretty well. So that's kind of what we relied on.
Awesome. Yeah, and then on the other side of that, we also followed some behavior design principles in terms of creating UI, as well as adding features and stuff those things were also quite helpful to think about. So that was our reflection. I'll move on here to our future adjustments. A couple of the initial things. The first one that I will mention was we had some additional features that we didn't quite get to implement. And those main ones that I can think of right now would be like saving and bookmarking repositories. There just wasn't quite enough time for those things, and we ended up having to prioritize certain features over others. And our main priority ended up being the core functionality of the app. So that was, happens. I think a lot of groups had those issues as well. So had to cut some things out, but that's all right. Let's see what else we had. The other one I have on here was further enhancing our UI and experience. That can also always be improved, of course. So yeah, increasing your UI usability is always good, as well as adding more features like those ones I just mentioned, and ease of use would be something we do in the future. And then in general, just taking more time to refine the application. Those are the ones I have listed on here. Does anyone else want to add anything that we do in the future differently?
Nothing else that you haven't mentioned.
I think we did a pretty good job. It's obviously kind of hard. We can't get any feedback from anybody else, but it'd probably just be little things, I'm sure. So.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
think
given the constraints and everything, I think we did a pretty good job.
I think so. I think we had, we had our difficulties, and we had the things that worked well and the things that didn't. And combining all that together, we have a functioning application that I think we're pretty proud of. Um, and I think overall it was a good experience. Anything else anybody wants to add?
Yeah, it was a great learning experience, especially given after the second homework that came after this, figuring out how to make the basics of the API.
Yep,
So
doing all the Django
it was
stuff.
a great learning experience. Yep, it was definitely a good way to learn Django.
All right, I think.
Yeah, I'm really happy with how the app turned out. I think we did a good job.
Yeah, we'll be on the lookout for any feedback. I think that's about all we have to add. Obviously, I had this in here for when we were going to present in class, but can't get any questions now. So, whatever questions, feel free to put them in our chat here if you have any questions. But I think that's about it for us. Does anyone else want to add anything before we stop it? All right.
I think I'm all good.
I think we're all good.
We're good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sweet.